Could it be? For me, your man, Louie T, here on this Thanksgiving weekend. Quick Saturday recap of the Thanksgiving games, Friday's game, and a host of other things that's going on. But most importantly, here to check in with the mob, give away these tickets to Sunday's game versus Tennessee Titans. So, how's everybody doing? How has Thanksgiving been treating you this weekend, and how's everything going? I myself have had a wonderful Thanksgiving or weekend. Started off with Thanksgiving, watched some football, kicked it with the family, friends, etc. Had some food. Haven't had real food in almost 2 months. That's a long story. Maybe I'll tell y'all that whole story another time. But in any event, went Black Friday shopping on Friday. Boy, was I tired. A lot of walking around. I had over 14,000 steps I took yesterday. It's a lot for me. So went out Black Friday shopping, got home in enough time to watch from midway through the second quarter all the way through the rest of that crazy Chiefs-Raiders game. So we'll talk about that. Had a chance to look at the injury report. I haven't had a chance to listen to any press conferences from Thursday. Joe Witt Jr. Spoke. I think Cliff Kingsbury spoke as well. I know DQ spoke on Friday. Didn't have a chance to listen to that either. So maybe I'll have a chance to listen to that at some point today. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I did see the injury report. I was following that closely. And I did see that Brian Robinson Jr. is going to go. Thought he would. After, kind of seeing how things went early this week, I was really shocked. I heard him speak to the media, and I was like, he sounds like he's going to play. Also very shocked that think is it let me double check this. I think Andrew Wiley is going to give it a go as well. Let me just double check that real quick and check and see. But Marshawn Lattimore is the biggest one, obviously. Marshawn Lattimore is doubtful, okay, which isn't a shock to me, right? But I was a little bit more hopeful than doubtful for Marshawn Lattimore going into this game. I was really hoping that he would be able to give it a go. Now, doubtful doesn't mean he's out. It just means that more likely than not, he's not going to play. So the guess right now is he's not going to be able to play in this game. Again, that really sucks because you were hoping to have him back. And I really need to check the Titans. I haven't checked anything with the Titans. So while I'm talking to you, I think I'm going to do both of those things right now. Guess I got to go to the Titans website because teams do a really poor job of keeping track of the injury reports for the opposite team. That's one thing I've seen is they used to make the teams updated on their websites. Now that social media is kind of taken over, they really don't do a good job of making sure that the teams do that anymore. So Eckler and Wiley are out, which we knew, right? Wiley had, kind of defied the odds. He practiced a little this week, but didn't think he would make it back in time, and he didn't. Marshawn Lattimore is doubtful, so we know that as well. As expected, Leroy Watson out again. Who cares? Chidobe Awuzie out. I was hoping that he'd be out, but wasn't sure. Tajay Spears questionable. Everybody else is playing. So, like I said early in the week, I figured that these injuries for the Titans wouldn't really impact the game. Most of the guys that I felt like could really truly impact the game were going to play. So really nothing there to glean on the side of the Titans. They're going to have all their guys. And if we want to win this game, we're going to just have to win the game off the strength of just being better than them. And we haven't proven that here over the last 3 weeks or so that we were the better team against any of the opponents that we've played, including the Cowboys this past week. So we'll see what they do this week. Again, I'm just going to watch the game and see what happens. That's kind of where I'm at with it. But I have no expectations going into this game. We got to prove it. But let's go back to Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, triple header. On the podcast on Wednesday, I predicted that all of the home teams would win the games, right? And that came to fruition. So let's start with the Bears and the Lions. That game was crazy to say the least. It was probably, I was watching the game with Boss Man, my two sisters, my mom, my wife, my uncle. He had a couple other people over at his house. We were all watching the game together, and it's one of the greatest coaching malpractices I've ever seen in my life. So I didn't get to my uncle's house until right before, like literally 3 plays before halftime. So when I got there, my dad's kind of filling me in. Boss man's like, "Hey, 16-0 when I get there." And my sister's like, "Well, it would have been worse if they didn't just fumble." And so they're telling me about a fumble that happened at the 3-4 yard line by the Lions. They were going in to polish them off. If they score that touchdown, it's 23-0. The game's over. Instead, they fumble. The Bears are trying to get in the field goal range. They don't quite make it. It's 16-0 at halftime. So I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be an ass whooping. The Bears come out in the second half. They score. Then they give up points. So it still looks like they're going to be in this game. But ultimately, they turn the faucet off defensively on Detroit, and they get back into that game, and it feels like this thing is going to overtime. Boss was saying that the Bears were going to score a touchdown. I'm like, no, they're not going to score a touchdown. They're going to kick a field goal. But they had their chances, obviously. So they're moving into field goal range, and I'm talking about their kicking situation because Cairo Santos doesn't have the biggest leg in the world. And so being aware of that, I'm like, they need to get probably to the 30-yard line to comfortably be in his range. Now, he can make a 52-yard field goal, but he's one of those dudes that's got to put every inch of his body into that kick to get it home from 53, 54 yards out. It's just not who he is as a kicker. So they were inching towards the 40, and then Caleb Williams takes a terrible sack. But no worries. Bears have one timeout left, so worst case scenario, you got 3 options in this situation. They take a sack with 34 seconds left. You got 3 options. 1, just call your last time out. You can still work any part of the field. Now, here's the problem. That sack occurred on 2nd down. So now it's 3rd down. So if you don't get the 1st down on this next play, you cannot spike the ball, right? It's 4th down. So you'd have to run your field goal unit out there, but you still would have plenty of time to do that. Again, I just told you that sack took place with 34 seconds left. They would have called a timeout. It'd probably been like 31, 32, maybe 33 seconds left on the game clock. So they had plenty of time to work any part of the field. All they needed was roughly about 8 to 10 yards to get into comfortable field goal range for Cairo Santos. You run your field goal unit out there, they get comfortable. You snap that ball with 4 or 5 seconds left, and you kick it and see what happens, right? Try to tie the game up. I think the score was 23 to 20, if I'm not mistaken. So you try to tie it up at 23. But instead, they didn't opt to do that. So the next option would have been you run up, you call a play, you hurry up, and you get a play out of bounds, right? Which would have stopped the clock with, let's say, 12 seconds left, right? Still can kick your field goal. You still got your timeout. If you wanted to, say, get a little bit closer, say you're not happy with the distance that you're at, say you get a 8-yard completion, still feel like you need another 5 or 6 yards, it would have been probably about 4th and maybe 5. You can still use any part of the field. You still got your timeout. You can go about it that way if you're not close enough for Cairo Santos. And then the third option would have been you go up, you call the play, you get the completion, you call your last timeout, and you get your field goal unit out there with about 5 or 6 seconds left, right? They did none of those things. Instead, they went up to the line of scrimmage. Caleb Williams gets settled with roughly 11, 12 seconds left on the clock. He should have been calling for the football immediately at that point. Instead, he's looking around the clock, and after the game, we learned to change the play, which you can't do that with that kind of time left. You got to get up there, and you got to snap the ball as quickly as possible. the ball. That play ended with 34 seconds, like I said. They didn't snap the ball until there was 6 seconds left. And then he throws a pass 35 yards down, took the rest of the clock up, and they had no time left on the clock. And they had a timeout still. So the game ended with them not getting them still having a timeout in their back pocket. And they lose the game. And incredibly, it's one of the worst endings to a game I've seen for a team that had a chance to win in my life. And, you know, I tweeted out afterwards, look, he's fired, right? Like, that's a fireable offense if I've ever seen one. And so, obviously, you get to the press conference after the game, and this is the second time he's been a part of some bullshit at the end of a game and then doubled down on his bullshit. He did it after the Washington game. We didn't do anything wrong. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, you did, dum-dum. You gave up a free, 10, 12 yards before the Hail Mary that put us in a position to even get the ball that close. Yeah, you did something wrong, dummy. Yeah, your players didn't play it right, but we should have even been close enough to even reach the end zone, clown. So then he said, we ran everything that we needed to run, yada, 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 game. And like, bro, what are you talking about? You had a whole timeout left that you went in the locker room with. You botched that thing 6 ways to Sunday. So the Bears are a train wreck of an organization, though, because they send this man to the podium on Friday. He speaks to the media, addresses the media, talks about his longevity in Chicago, and then 2 hours later, the man is fired. And it's idiotic, right? It's like Daniel Jones having a farewell press conference and then being released by the Giants like 2-3 days later. It's crazy, right? That's not usually how that goes, but whatever. The Bears are a mess. They're going to promote Thomas Brown, their offensive coordinator, to interim head coach, which is cool. I like that guy. Remember when we were in the hunt for an offensive coordinator? That was a name that's circulated when we hired Eric Bieniemy last year. We were looking for an offensive coordinator. Thomas Brown was then with the Rams. That was a name that kind of circulated, and we were excited about him potentially being a guy that they would go after. Of course, they ended up settling in on Eric Bieniemy, and the rest is history. But he's done a really good job with Caleb Williams. Speaking of Caleb Williams, played really well. I thought he took a stupid hit by the sidelines that injured him in the game, but he set the NFL record for the most passing attempts by a rookie quarterback without an interception. So good for him after the rough start to the season. He's settled in. He's not turning the ball over, and he's been really clutch. They just don't know how to win, right? Bears game, or this game, Packers game, Commanders game. You keep going on and on and on. They were awful as a team against New England, but he did break the record for most attempts. So good for him. But now the Bears are 4-8, and Thomas Brown will be finishing up the season for them as their interim head coach. They'll be looking to hire someone else in the offseason. That'll be a pretty attractive job, I would think, being that they've got Caleb Williams at quarterback and a really good defense. Good defensive pieces there to work with. So you think that'd be a pretty good finish, right? But or a pretty good job, but we'll see. Then you had the Giants and the Cowboys game. The Giants, they're as bad as that dog said. They're not going to win another game this season. They're cooked. They should have been one pick. Them and the Raiders. Now the Raiders, they're competitive. So I would have snuck someone, later on in the season. But the likelihood of that taking place slim and none, because the Raiders are garbage too. But they're fighting. At least they're fighting. Giants, not so much. They're awful. Drew Lock stinks. Tommy DeVito stinks. They stink. And I'd be shocked if they won another game. DeMarvion Overshown at the pick 6. That was really the highlight of the game on both sides. Both teams stink, really. The Cowboys were able to run the football, something the Giants have not been able to do all season. Conversely, I thought the Giants would have more success on the had them early, but their two biggest came from the quarterback in the games. It's crazy. That's how the Giants so, sorry about that. I'm at my parents' house. Wi-Fi is trash here, which is why I don't do a lot of videos from this location because it's like using dial-up internet. My bad. But anyway, uh, like I was saying, DeMarvion Overshown gets the interception. That was really the highlight of the game on Thursday for the Cowboys and Giants. Two bad teams. My goodness. I think the Giants really are going to get the number one pick in the draft. They stink. The Raiders are also bad, but they're very competitive, and I could see them beating someone, even with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. The Giants have no hope. The one thing that I thought they might be able to do against Dallas, run the football, they couldn't consistently. Their two biggest runs came from their quarterback, Drew Lock. Every time they did something remotely positive, there was a penalty that negated it immediately. There's no hope for the Giants. They're going to lose the rest of their games. The Raiders should do the same, but I could see them sneaking somebody, catching somebody sleep at the wheel like they almost did with Kansas City. We'll talk about that game here in a bit. But the Cowboys fans are now starting to do what the Giants fans did last year, be garbage for 60% of the season, then all of a sudden get a little quick 2-3 game win streak, have your season be built essentially and reborn and have a shot, a faint shot at postseason play, and then only to have your season go back to where it started, which is in the toilet. That's going to happen to Cowboys fans here, but it's fun watching them get their hopes up again, talking crazy, sideways, all kinds of nonsense, right? You're not going to the playoffs with Cooper Rush as your quarterback. Sorry, I didn't want to be the one. But you know what I do like that's coming of this? Mike McCarthy is going to be retained potentially. Yeah, that is great news if that happens. I've seen, from the Giants standpoint, I've seen crazy things come out. Like Bleacher Report, I think like 2-3 days ago, had something along the lines of 3 coaches that could be, or 3 GMs that could be gone and teams that could be looking for new GMs. And the Giants were up there. And I was like, really? I mean, Joe Shane is making his, world tour around colleges right now. He's at games trying to scout these quarterbacks. It just feels like he's going to be there. Mara said, just a month ago that no one was going to be fired. I don't think that should change now that the Giants absolutely suck ass. We kind of knew this is what they were. So I don't see them getting rid of either Shane or Brian Daboll. But they stink. They should have the number one pick. They're going to have a tussle with Jacksonville. But even Jacksonville, I think, could sneak somebody. They play in the worst division in football, do the Jaguars. They could sneak someone in that division. Meanwhile, the only team that the Giants could beat in this division is the Commanders, and they've already lost both of those games. So there is no help in sight for the Giants. They're going to finish this season probably 2-15. They are horrible. And Dexter Lawrence is now done for the season, it looks like. So there's no help in sight for the Giants. Cowboys win that game. What did it end up? Like 26 to 13, I think. Something to that effect. Maybe 26 to 20. I think the Giants got a late touchdown, maybe. Anyway, I digress. We had the nightcap, which was just god-awful. It was the worst game of the day. The Dolphins had their opportunities to make it a competitive game. They simply cannot play in cold weather. That's a real thing. As much as they want to dismiss that, as much as they want to make that a fabricated narrative, it's real. And even one of their players, one of their linebackers, Jordan Brooks, said after the game, we're soft. And he said the weather definitely impacted the guys on our team. You never want to hear that. So they have a real issue in cold weather. It's just a real thing. Tua's 0-7 now in games in which the temperature is below freezing, I think, 32 degrees. I think he's 0-7 now. And every time we watch this Dolphins team in cold weather conditions, they look like they don't want to be there. So this is another one of those games. It's one of the worst tackling displays I've seen all season long. They could not tackle a single Packer in that game, nor did they want to. There probably was at least 20 missed tackles in that game by the Dolphins defenders. It was bad. Very, very bad. But Green Bay took care of business, did what they were supposed to do. They improved to 9-3, hanging in that tough, rough, and rugged NFC North division. Dolphins, any hopes of them making a run at the postseason and getting back into it? They had won 3 straight, but my biggest problem with them was look at who they had beaten during that stretch. They beat up on New England last week. The week before that, it was the Raiders, and the week before that, it was the Rams. They hadn't beaten anybody with a winning record in that stretch, and I just didn't think when they played better teams, which was coming up on the schedule, that they would win. And that came to pass with Green Bay. And that pretty much puts them to sleep in the AFC. They would have needed to win out and needed a little bit of help during that process. Now they dropped to 5-7, I believe they are now on the season, are the Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken. And that pretty much puts them out of their misery there. Then we get to Friday. And it was a lot like that Lions and Bears game. Family business. You know how that goes. The Chiefs started off really slow, but they, had a 10-0 lead at halftime. The Raiders missed a couple of field goals, so they could have had points on the board, but they didn't. And the Chiefs had gotten the lead up to, I believe it was 13-0 at one point. Then I think it got to 16-3, and then it was like 19 to, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 19-10, or it might have been 19-3. And then the Raiders, all of a sudden, even though they couldn't get out of their own way, they got hot offensively in that second half, and they couldn't stop Brock Bowers. Number 11, Trey, forgot his last name. He was starting to present problems as well, and all of a sudden, they were back in that game. They scored a couple of touchdowns. Boom, boom, and just like that, a game that seemed well in hand at 19-3 or whatever was now all of a sudden 19-17, and then the Raiders got the football. Mahomes, I saw a crazy statistic in this game that the Mahomes was sacked 5 times in the game versus the Raiders on Friday. It tied a career high in the amount of times he'd been sacked for the most in any game. And I thought to myself, for as long as Patrick Mahomes has been in the league, you're telling me that the most times he's been sacked in any given game is 5. That is it. That is amazing, because most quarterbacks in the NFL have had one stinker of a day where they weren't protected, they weren't seeing the field well, they didn't trust the offensive line, whatever the case may be. Somebody just got the best of them and they got sacked 7 times in that game, right? Every quarterback's got one of those days. Not Patrick Mahomes. 5 is the most he's ever been sacked. And we know how elusive he is, and there've been some bad years. This is the worst offensive line I think he's had because of all the injuries, and then that's why they signed DJ Humphries, right? And he'll be getting in there probably next week is my guess. But this is the worst line he's had in front of him. Last year's line wasn't great, but at least it was consistent. At least you knew what 5 guys were going to be there. They've been playing musical chairs at left tackle the entire season. They've had issues on the interior with guys staying healthy. They took one of their guards and moved them to tackle yesterday. That's how many issues they were having. And he didn't fare any better. And so it's been one, issue after another up front. And it came to a head yesterday with Mahomes getting pressured and getting hit. He could have easily been sacked 7 or 8 times yesterday. He got rid of the football a couple of times, including one throw to DeAndre Hopkins where somehow Mahomes gets it off and throws a dot to DeAndre Hopkins, and he drops it on a 3rd down. But with all that said, obviously, Harrison Butker is out for the Chiefs. He's on IR. So they've got Matthew Wright, who stinks and doesn't have a big leg. He missed a field goal from 54, 55 yards, whatever it was. And so that kept the door open for the Raiders. And you get late into that game, and the Raiders had the football with a chance. Me and Boss were debating on whether the Raiders should have gone for it in the situation, because for me, it didn't make much of a difference. Now, ultimately, it worked out for the Raiders, so it doesn't make a difference. But for me, it didn't make much of a difference whether you punted the ball or you went for it. Now, it was 4th and 11, which is what the case that Boss was making. Like, you can't go for it on 4th down if it's 4th and 11. Not unless you have a prolific offense, and the Raiders don't have a prolific offense. But my thing was, you're getting close to the 2-minute warning. The Raiders had 2 timeouts. Whether you kick the ball off, whether you punt the ball on 4th and 11, or you went for it on 4th or 11 and 11, if the Chiefs get 1 first down, game's over. So what difference does it make? Now, the rebuttal to that is, well, if the Chiefs don't convert a first down and they have to punt and you go for it on 4th down and don't get it, they're going to be in a position to pin you a lot deeper. And now you got to go a lot further to get the field goal. Whereas if you punt the ball on this 4th down, because the Raiders were right around midfield, probably a little bit past midfield when they got to this 4th and 11. They weren't a little bit; they were past midfield. But their kicker had been struggling on the day, so they didn't want to kick a long attempt. I think they were like at the 40, probably like the 47, 46 of the Chiefs. So they elected to punt the football, and they got the stop. Chiefs punted the football to them. They still had to go a solid amount of way, right, which was my point, that you could have just gone for it on 4th and 11, give you 2 cracks at the apple, essentially. It's the same premise of why teams who have all 3 timeouts kick the onside kick, even though they could just kick the ball off deep and play defense. It just gives you 2 shots to possess the ball once. So why not take it? So that was my stance on 4th and 11. Why not go for it? Because the Chiefs aren't going to attempt a field goal with Matthew Wright from the distance that you're going to go for it on 4th down. If you get the stop, they're going to punt the football. And you still need a field goal either way, right? And the Chiefs got off a good punt, and they still had to go probably like 45, 50 yards to get in the field goal range, but they were on the move. They were on the move, and they had the Chiefs by the balls, by the scrotum. And I still can't tell you what the hell happened there at the end of that game. Unbelievable that they get into that situation where there's 11 seconds left, the ball is snapped, the Chiefs recover the football, so the ball snapped prematurely before anybody's ready, including the quarterback. Ball bounces off his chest plate, hits the ground. He tries to recover. He can't, and the Chiefs end up recovering the football. I think one of the offensive linemen who didn't know the ball was on the ground kicks it, and the Chiefs end up recovering the football. So now you got to sort it out. The center, he wants, because he's the one who messed up, he wants them to call like illegal snap, which is like a false start penalty where no play actually took place. You just back them up 5 yards. Now, there would have been a 10-second runoff. Either way, the Raiders were screwed. Because if it's a 10-second runoff, there would have only been 1 second left on the clock. And literally, you weren't in field goal range. At that point, you would have had to kick a 60-whatever-yard field goal or throw a Hail Mary. But the likelihood of that working was going to be slim and none. So you were screwed either way. Because the 10-second runoff that they would have been required to do with a moving clock on an offensive penalty would have put it at 1 second. And then once they marked the ball for play, that 1 second was going to run off. Whether you spiked it or whatever you did, 1 second was going to run off and the game's going to be over either way. And if you had your field goal unit out there, you would have to run them out there, kick the field goal after they spot the ball. And again, it was going to be like damn near 70-yard field goal. He wasn't making that. He already had missed from 56 and 58 in the game. Short both times. So he wasn't making that. So it didn't matter because the Chiefs recovered and they called the penalty, but it was a penalty that allowed the play to actually take place. Chiefs recovered, so the game was over. What kind of magic, what kind of voodoo, what kind of, like, we're past the point of good juju with the Chiefs. Like, they got something on the football gods. Like, what kind of, leverage do they have over the football gods at this point? They keep winning in the most improbable ways that we've never seen before. Like, it's one thing to get lucky once or twice or even 3 times in a season. They've been lucky like 6 times this year. The Ravens game in week 1, the Broncos game, this game. I mean, we could keep going. There's several other games, the Bucks game. And, I mean, we can just keep going and going. The Bengals might have been the biggest luck, right? It's 4th and 16. They're on their deathbed, and they get a penalty on the Bengals, to bail them out. Like, they've had so many games, and this isn't it's the fix is in or the NFL wants them to win. None of that shit. Because the NFL didn't tell the Raiders center to snap the damn ball prematurely. The NFL didn't tell the Broncos to get a field goal blocked. The NFL didn't tell the Ravens tight end Isaiah Likely to have a fraction of his toe out of bounds. Like, they didn't tell Lamar Jackson to miss a wide open Zay Flowers in the back of the end zone in week 1, right? Like, just the craziest shit happens when it comes to the Chiefs, man. And they just, one thing you got to give them credit for is they just know how to win. They just know how to win, and good teams know how to win, and that's what they've been doing. So that was great though. The Thanksgiving games, the first one, the Thursday game, which we didn't think when we kept watching the promos for it, we didn't think there was a chance in hell that game would be entertaining. That was entertaining, and I don't know if you guys had a chance last night to watch Georgia and Georgia Tech, but that game was drunk. That was a lot of fun. Georgia Tech has to be, kicking themselves today. They had every opportunity to win that game, and their quarterback played its ass off. Played his ass off. He was playing banged up. You could tell he was giving everything he had, and he had a back-breaking fumble there at the end of the fourth quarter that gave Georgia a chance to tie the game up, and they did. And then this thing went to 8 overtimes. 8 before Georgia prevailed 42-40, I believe the score ended up. I think it ended up 44-42 is what the score ended up. That game was drunk and intoxicated at dangerous levels. It was so much fun to watch that. Caught a little bit of NBA action, a little Timberwolves and Clippers, and then Lakers and OKC. So got a little bit of that in as well. Just a fun weekend so far in general. I haven't had a chance to check out any of the scores. I know last time I checked, Michigan was actually beating Ohio State. I don't expect that to hold up. Ohio State is far superior to Michigan this year. and I expect them to snap their losing streak to the Wolverines this season. And Michigan will, or Ohio State will be playing in that Big Ten championship game, more likely than not. Versus, I wonder if they combine them now so that they can play Penn State in the final, or if they're still separated and they play some team that isn't good enough. Or what am I saying? They would be playing Oregon, right? They already played Oregon, and they would be playing them again. But I don't know how the Big Ten is set up now with all the new entries into the conference, but I digress. Anyway, let's go ahead and give these tickets away. And so you guys can get out of here and get back to your day. I didn't want to come in here and talk y'all to death. As you can see, I'm about to hit the gym. So I'm not going to sit here and talk y'all to death. But let's go ahead and get these tickets away real quick. Let me get this video up. I had it up the first time, and then obviously I was having issues. I had to relocate in the dungeon that is my parents' house to get this Wi-Fi to work correctly. So we haven't had any more issues. So now let's go ahead and put this video up so you guys can see. If you're watching this and you win, reach out to me. You can either email me at LouieTeeNetwork at gmail.com, or that's probably the best way to do it, just to email me, right? Because if we get into the DMing situation on social media and I don't see it, I'll see it if you email me. So I'll be checking my emails periodically throughout the day, and I'll check my social media too. So if that's more convenient for you, eventually you're going to have to send me your email, right? Because I'm going to have to make sure it's you, and I got to have somewhere to send the tickets. So you're just better off emailing me if you win the tickets. But in any event, here is the video. Good luck to all of you who entered into the drawing. Make sure that you're a member of the mob, etc., etc. Hashtag we back. Got to get this dub this weekend, and I'm sending 2 to the game to get that done. Here we go. All right, so big shout out to KP Flex was the first winner. So these tickets are yours. If you want them, hit me up. Again, best method is going to be LouieTeeNetwork at gmail.com. So hit me up there, and I can get you these 2 tickets. If I don't hear from you in the next 6 hours or so, we're going to go to the next winner, Jim Wagner. Shout out to Jim. If I don't hear from KP Flex, I'll be coming your way. So everybody just email me, right? And then my guy Swaggy P, I know you don't live in the state, so you need time in advance. You were the 3rd winner. So again, you'll know by tonight. I'm giving these tickets away by tonight. So if I don't hear from KP, I'm gonna give him some time. Not everybody's watching this video, I'm aware, but I'm gonna give KP Flex some time to get situated, find this video, hit me up, get these tickets. If KP Flex doesn't reach out, Jim Wagner, you're up next in the process, and I'll be getting at you, Jim. Can y'all hear me? I see the Wi-Fi starting to cut up on me, which means it's probably time for me to get the hell out of here. Is what that means. So again, KP Flex was the first winner. Jim Wagner was the second winner, and then my guy Swaggy P was the last winner. So, okay, good. If you can hear me, that's all that matters. The visual isn't important, but get at me, LouieTeeNetwork at gmail.com to claim the tickets. KP Flex, you got 6 hours, roughly till 8 o'clock tonight to claim the tickets. If I don't hear from you by then, I'm going to the next person, Jim Wagner, getting at him. If I don't get at him, then I'm going to just go ahead and slide him the Swaggy P, who's the third winner, and then we're going to get out of here, right? Got to get these tickets to somebody so they can make their proper plans to be at the stadium, because y'all know what we got to do. This one is big. We need this one like we need air to breathe, like we need underwear after a clean bath. We need this bad, and not just any underwear, clean underwear after a fresh bath. We need this one bad. So y'all know what to do, right? This goes without saying, but take care of business. Anyway, I digress. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. Like I said, I didn't come here to talk y'all to death. So says me 40 minutes later. But I'll be with y'all tomorrow. Y'all know what it is. We'll be back. I'll be back in the office tomorrow. I'll set up all the streams, and I'll be ready to kick it with the mob tomorrow during the game. Hopefully a win over the Titans to get us back on track. I'm nervous as hell, but we'll see what happens. But nonetheless, whether we win, lose, draw, you know where to find me after the game. I'll be over on Bleacher Report for 30 minutes, and then I'm coming straight to you guys. And hopefully we're talking about this team getting to 8-5, going into a bye week, and kind of exhaling. We're all kind of walking around on eggshells. We're kind of collectively holding our breaths after this 3-game skid. We need something good to happen for us. We need a win. That's what we need. To hell with everything else. We need a win. But, boy, those have been hard to come by lately. Let's see if we can get it this Sunday. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. If you won the tickets, KP Flex, get at me. Jim, get at me. Swaggy P, get at me, because I need a direct line to y'all in case the first person or the person in front of you didn't do what they were supposed to do. I need a direct line to you. And if nobody claims the tickets by the end of business tonight, I'm going on to my community chat like I always do, and I'm going to do a flash drawing giveaway. And whoever answers the trivia question first is going to get the tickets. Like, we're not going to play around with it today. Somebody's walking away with these 2 tickets today. All right? So make sure y'all take care of business. But in any way, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the food, the family, the friends, and the faith. And I will see you guys on Sunday. Raise hell.